Tell me, Tushar, I'm curious, since this is the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast, and a lot of our audience are folks that are emerging founders or people looking to get into franchising. Share with us some of your thoughts on what you're seeing in the emerging franchise space. What are some of the challenges and solutions you're finding that you're running into in the emerging franchisors?
Got it. So, and that's great to know. I mean, all of our customers are emerging franchisors. We think that's the most exciting category and the most challenging category at the same time.
I agree.
So let me talk about the trends, or at least overall macro things that we're seeing in the industry. So one, in terms of new concepts, we're seeing a lot of, especially in food, health-related concepts. So anything that's healthy, organic, quick, that's seeing a huge jump. Second, I'm seeing, again, this is more macro, but anything that adds convenience to your life, right? So this is where a lot of home services, personal services brand come in. So from mosquito repellent franchisees to sort of deer repellent franchisees to something as simple as mounting televisions, right? So there are TV mounting franchisees now. So anything that makes convenience easy, especially for millennials and Gen Zs, because they don't like to do a lot of stuff themselves, that's sort of increasing. And third category, right from that health within the food segment, we're seeing more alternate healthy concepts, which means things like cryogenics, things like stretch zones, things like that help you maintain a healthy lifestyle, right? So these would be alternate medical therapies and things like that.
Sure.
So a huge jump in that. Like we have 3 customers in that category, and then just in the last 4 or 5 months that they've been with us, they've doubled in size, like doubled in open locations. So that's always super exciting to see. And then one last one, which I'm pretty excited about, is this category of entertainment, and within entertainment, I would call it hobbies. So you would see a rise in art-related concepts and craft-related concepts, and concepts that help you either learn a hobby or use that hobby as an entertainment on weekends or on nights with your friends and stuff, right? So that's at least what I'm seeing in terms of trends.
Okay. You know, Tushar, franchising is not easy, right? It is difficult, and it is so rare for a franchisor to get to 100 locations. And there's a lot of franchisors that start up in a year and, disappear a few years later because it wasn't what they expected to be. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing with some clients that you're trying to help them break through?
That's a great question. So the median number of locations that a franchisee has in the US is about 40, right? Most, like you said, about 86% or so never reach that 100 level mark. The number one reason that I see, and this we see in our prospects and in our customers, is they don't think in terms of systems. So most people, the way that you start franchising is you had a business that was doing really well. Either your customers really prompted you to start franchising and you start getting inbounds,
right?
Or you sort of explored around, you were entrepreneurial and you thought, okay, if I have to really grow, I should start franchising. And then moving away from that mindset of operating your location to now operating a franchisee system is very different, right? And most people find it hard to go through that journey. So that's what I've seen is the biggest reason why, or the biggest challenge why, especially emerging concepts cannot go through that. Second, even if you want to build a system, complexity is that you have to do a lot. So what most people recommend is, hey, let's just sell first. Once we've sold 100, we can figure the rest out, right? And so you'll see today there's a lot of emerging franchisees that have sold hundreds of locations, but have hardly 1/10 open, and probably will not open the rest, right?
I have never seen it. I've never seen it like this. This is by far the craziest ratio of sold to not open in my 20 years in the industry.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that. And the biggest reason for that is selling is easy. You can promise and commit, and you can sell a story and a vision. And these are obviously great entrepreneurs and great sales folks. But when it comes to actually operating that system, you first have to build that system. And to build that system, there are multiple things that you have to do. But if I have to put it in categories, there are 4 things that you have to do, right? One, you have to first document how you are doing things and how you expect your owners to do things. This could be in form of a manual, maybe just a list of to-dos, maybe go and see what you do every day,
Right.
right? Second, once you have that figured out, now you need to figure out how can I make it simple for somebody to follow these actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
These would be in terms of tools and resources that you can give them. So this would be training, this would be checklists, this would be tasks, et cetera, that you would want to give to the owners, right? In form of system. The third thing that is really, really important for the system is to actually have a mechanism to see if the system is being followed or not followed. So you build out a system, you figure out how to implement that system, and now you need to figure out if that system is being followed. So most emerging franchisees today resort to the old way. Hey, we'll do one inspection once a year, and one of our team members would go with a 150-point checklist to a location, and he'll
Right.
be like a cop writing a ticket, and he'll
Right.
be sort of walking through the store. That doesn't work anymore, right? You have to
Right.
start treating your owners as partners. So a mechanism to test that. And fourth, which is the most important, I think, today, what most people miss, even if they get the first three right, is you have to figure out a way to keep evolving the system. So there needs to be a way to put feedback back into the system. It's 2024. Things are changing every day. And if you have a system that doesn't change, that worked for Subway in the 80s and 90s and McDonald's, but doesn't work today. I mean, McDonald's launches new stuff and new things now at a
True.
rate that you cannot catch up, right? And so you need to figure out a way, how can I keep all of this evolving? So how do I make sure that everybody wants to be Crumble, right? Like that's the most
Right. The hottest.
controversial, hottest name in emerging space.
Right.
And everybody wants to do like one new flavor launch every week. But you need to have a system that enables you to do that, right? So the fourth thing is, I think, the most important. How do you keep evolving and putting feedback back into the system and making that system go forward?
Yeah, because I think a lot of founders get into franchising. Number one, they think, well, a franchisee is going to work as hard as I do. And they also make the assumption that the knowledge that they've acquired is just obvious. And like, oh, well, of course they'll do this. And that they miss on documenting the very specific systems and processes. Therefore, they forget that they are in a brand new business called franchising and not the business that they were in, right? It's like me being in the sports business. Once I franchised, I was no longer in sports. I was in franchising. And
absolutely,
too many people miss that. And I agree with you. I think execution, the broad term we say is, well, the reason why most franchisors fail starting out is they don't execute. But I think exactly what you said, those four reasons are kind of drilling into the reason why that execution doesn't work. And progress is happiness, as we say, right? And you have to continue to evolve. And I think even more so now in franchising, where we have so many more new cutting edge franchisors that have access to a technology stack early on, that the competition is much, much greater, that in order for you to kind of get onto the highway of franchising, like you got to ramp up quickly. You need to find partners. You need to find technology partners. You need to find the right salesperson or sales organization, brokers. There's a lot of moving parts that founders just assume because I have a great, sandwich shop and I have customers lining up out the door that it's going to do well. And that's not the case. And I think you said it best.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I've seen that. I have like one story comes to my mind. And this is from one of the prospects that we had, was, again, just in the market evaluating. And we love to talk to anybody. So even if they're not buying, we love to just learn from them, right? Like we're lifelong learners. So now this was a concept that was really, really working in their local territory, in their corporate location. And obviously that prompted a franchisee. It was a new, innovative concept. So they could, again, sell pretty fast. So they did the whole trade show circuit and they quickly sold 150 locations. And they had about 11 open. The problem that they started to face just with 11 open was they had no way to actually support those 11. So the way that they were working, so in their mind, they implemented all the systems and they did everything right. They had an SOP, they had a manual, they were using Google Drive, they were using like multiple different things. But from a Z's level, so we thought, okay, this is great. Can you help us talk to one of your Z's? We just want to understand their perspective. And when we went and talked to the Z, what we learned was, I have to check my email to see if there's anything new sort of happening to place an order for my new. They had a supply component which they needed to. I have to go through this particular tool. When I'm hiring new people, I don't get any support for that. In terms of training, they visited my store when it opened for a week, and since then I've never seen them. And then they have these videos on Drive that I usually show to my employees, but I have to do that training all over again. I'm not able to figure out why I'm not getting customers, and I don't even know who I talk to for that. They usually do these marketing brand campaigns nationally as they speak, even with 11 locations.
Right.
But I don't know how that is helping me, or that's not really translating to actual people walking through the door. And so the owner feels, I think I was better off if I just copied this and opened Jack's studio and never franchised it, because I would have to do everything on my own anyway, right?
Sure.
So again, so from a source perspective, you think you're doing everything right? Mm-hmm. You have manuals, you have things, you have systems for everything. But you also have to step into Z's shoe and figure out how they are experiencing different things, right? Are they feeling supported? Are they getting ROI for paying you that franchisee fee and paying you that royalty? Because you don't have a brand. You're not McDonald's, right?
Right.
So a lot of franchisors think that people are paying for the brand. But for most emerging franchisees, you don't really have a brand yet, right? Like, barring a few exceptions. So I think that's interesting in terms of, again, mismatch that happens even when you have things figured out.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.